The following is a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network.
From the birthplace of modern winemaking, Sonoma, California, welcome to The Winemakers. Local experts Sam Couturi, Bart Hansen, and Brian Casey, along with host John Myers, invite you to listen in as they discuss all facets of winemaking. So sit back, pour yourself a glass, and let's hear what the guys have to say this week.
Wow. I don't even know what to say about how
I wanted to go big. You made it sound like I needed to make a big pour. Now it's on my shirt. It's on the microphone.
I'm so happy to be back. I missed you guys.
Welcome to the Winemakers.
You've been so tanked lately, it's hard to get you here.
All right, we got a fun day today.
As opposed to all those other days.
Yeah,
where we just were such a drag.
Sunny, beautiful day in Sonoma. Bart Hansen, Sam Couturi, James Joyner joining us.
Joined
today,
by Joyner. Snug the Joyner? Midsummer Night's Dream?
I mean, I'll take Snugs.
Midsummer Night's Dream, that's your reference?
I played.
I'm impressed.
I played Snug the Joyner in a performance of Midsummer Night's Dream.
And he's been doing it ever since.
At Justin Sienna, my freshman year of high school.
You mean Joint the Stoner? Is that what you meant?
I was not as only second hand at that time in my life.
What were you, 8?
Yes, I was an 8 as a freshman in high school. And then I was held back for 7 years.
I'm finding it hard to believe you didn't smoke weed as a freshman in high school.
I probably did.
Yeah. All right. I don't think your mom's going to be disappointed at this point. It's okay to say it.
Was it freshman year or junior or sophomore year? It's hard to say. Those memories are fuzzy for some reason.
Weird.
All right, we have Mark Adams on with us today, who is a farmer, musician, winemaker. Anyone who knows the cult classic Murdercycle, he worked on that movie.
Oh my God, that's digging deep.
Whoa. Brian.
Brian did some background information.
Shit, I'm surprised you even found that.
And
Dude, he's got your social security number.
he has been on the Winemakers podcast, but he hasn't been on the Winemakers podcast.
Right.
The other one without the space in between.
Remember that when Sandra reached out to us and she was like, you got to sue these guys. They're doing the Winemakers podcast. But it was Winemakers one word, not 2 words.
What happened to him?
They
They
had a
little accident?
Yeah, there
it
was
was
like
like
a half dozen or dozen episodes, something like that.
It was actually all about the book, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
produced a beautiful book.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
And he's from Ledge.
Oh, Ledge.
Oh, you might have heard of the wine that he makes? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Ledge.
Paso Robles.
Right.
I think I've had some. Jasmine sold it to me at the Girl in the Fig 10 years ago.
Oh, nice.
I'm just joking.
We had a lovely one last night.
We did.
Very enjoyable.
Very good.
And Mark, you're kind of hooked up with James in Texas, and then somehow he kidnapped you and brought you over.
Well, we had a lunch for Julian and the community at the Saxum facility, and that's how we met.
Yep.
And then I was on my way out to Texas for the first time to work the market. And he was out at the Luck Festival with Willie about 3 days after I was going to be out there. And so I just did a detour from Houston to Austin, and then that turned into being in Sonoma somehow.
As this,
The web that Joyner weaves.
Yeah.
it's the same story
and now
the
he
crew
lives
told
here.
me.
Right.
R.I.P. your
And
family.
now he works for
Sorry.
Enterprise Vineyards.
So weird. His beard's thicker already.
Everything's thicker when you start working in it.
Yeah. He did call Phil daddy last night, so.
What year is this, Brian? This is the 21?
Yeah, I think it's been open at least a day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to be here.
Yeah. What's going on in Paso recently? Like, what's the most exciting thing going on in Paso right now?
Well, plenty of rain. Bud breaks getting super close, so we're finally able to get back in the vineyard, and that's the fun part.
Yeah.
The sleepy time is over, and now it's time to get busy.
Are you guys bummed that hospice isn't going to be in Paso?
Yes,
Yeah. I wasn't
So are
sure.
we.
but full support, and
Absolutely.
love everything about that whole operation, and we can only hope that it comes back to Paso, but
Yeah.
full steam ahead. That's the hope.
Well, and it sounds like I know we talked earlier. You're not going to make it up to Walla Walla, but it sounds like
Unfortunately not.
There's a pretty solid contingent of Paso winemakers and crew that are going to be up there. So we were talking with MJ, debating whether or not to buy some tickets to a dinner, and he said, "Don't buy tickets to dinner. Just come hang out with Stanley Barrios." And I said, "Okay."
Stanley's going up.
Sounds like Stanley's going up,
Yeah.
and
I know that Don Burns is going
and
up
Don
there.
Burns, yeah, that was on the name too.
Russell Fromm will be there.
Great.
I don't have.
But you want to buy a ticket? You want to support hospice?
Yeah, no, we bought some tickets. There was one dinner that isn't sold out yet that I went to look at tickets for, and it was people that I love.
Was it the Bedrock?
It's not Bedrock.
It was just so expensive.
Yeah.
It was $350.
So did you get me a ticket?
Well, that was the thing, is I was like, I can't just buy myself a ticket, and like you and Brian, and then you got to include MJ.
I'm shooting that.
Are you shooting that?
That's
Then you don't need a
anyway.
ticket.
right.
All right.
I'm just, I don't really care about going out to dinner. Once I looked into where we're staying, it's like badass kitchen and outdoor area, and I'll be happy to cook.
All right.
Isaac's son Aiden
Brian
goes to
We got
college
that.
there. Said he
We got
had
that
a steady
recorded.
stream of co-eds coming through. So told me we had a mansion,
Great.
and a single man, and they're like, woo. Every college student with daddy issues that he knows will come through that house. Oh, God.
Whitman.
Whitman.
I'm going to go ahead and edit this one myself.
Yeah, please. Just edit out anything that you say.
Let me just
all
turn.
know my
I'll just turn
channel's
his
not
mic
really
off
on.
right now.
Turn his mic down, for crying out loud.
Out Brianing Brian.
All right. Well, let's talk about Ledge, right?
Let's talk about Ledge. Let's talk about Mark. Mark,
do it.
what do you want to talk about of yourself?
You're going to have to feed me. Feed me, Hendrik.
Well, let's
Well,
talk
I'm going to
about-
start with this.
Okay.
If I'm going to pour one of these first, which one should I pour first?
Oh, we're
I
getting
usually
into
start with the Grenache, but that's for no particular reason.
Okay.
We're all adults here. Any order is just fine.
What do you, I'm jumping away. What do you think Roussan adds to a red blend? Like I know Viognier,
Right into the middle.
right?
Boom. Boom.
No, because
That's all right.
Viognier,
I think
because
it
of the
lifts things
aromatics.
aromatically,
Okay.
and it just brings some linear. There's a straight shot through the middle that generally uplifts everything.
Yeah.
We picked the Roussan at the same time that we picked the Ciera. It's a beautiful co-ferment
Yeah.
that I made 100% Roussan in 22 and didn't have it in the red blend.
Yeah.
And I missed it.
Yeah.
So I stopped doing that, and now it's back to being co-fermented.
We don't see it a lot around here. We'll see people add Viognier and Syrah, but I see that down in Paso with some people adding Roussan.
I think Roussan in general, due to its sturdiness, is a better fit in Paso than Vio is in general.
Yeah.
But in my experience,
Vio just gets overcooked by the
I
time
think
you're
so. Yeah.
by the time you're ready to.
Yeah. It doesn't have the structure that a little cooler climate would provide for that grape, but Roussan does great.
Steve Law from McLaren did one of his Syrahs this year, one with Viognier, one with Roussan.
I almost brought a bottle to try it,
Yeah.
but I kind of wanted to save it for myself.
He was really excited about what the Roussan did to the 100 or the rest of the Syrah. I haven't tasted it myself, but
Yeah, we planted it for the purpose of co-fermenting it. It was
So you don't make any? Do you make any Roussan?
That's what
we
you were-
planted Claret Blanche.
You missed that whole part.
And we planted some Grenache Blanc, and we'll see how devoted that program becomes. I may graft the Grenache Blanc and the Claret Blanche over to Grenache or Syrah, honestly, and leave the Roussan. For us, the Grenache is just so happy.
Yep.
And so we're going to continue to go in that direction. I just look at the plants and how well they do, and sort of make farming decisions based on the happiness of the vines.
Well, if you listen to when Julian was here, he was talking about Claret Blanche and how planting Claret Blanche. This was the weirdest thing for me. Planting the Claret Blanche next to the Grenache made the Grenache happy.
Made the
Interesting.
Grenache set better. Isn't that what he was saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody needs a friend.
And in what quantity? Like surrounding it, or
no,
you know,
like
what
tiny
block
amounts,
over?
like
Intermixed, in the vines?
intermixed, or like a row, or a few vines at the end of a row. Just sort of like spreading some claret vibes into the Grenache Blanc.
And is that
in the Grenache Blanc
picked together? So are we saying that pure isn't entirely pure?
Well, I think pure is entirely pure.
I mean,
I still want to go to Chateauneuf and be welcome, so I'm not going to throw that at the... No, I think...
No, I'm just saying,
I don't think
with the 100% Grenache situation, I
Right.
wonder if any of that makes it into the mix.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I would doubt it, too.
I mean, it didn't sound like he was co-fermenting it or picking it at the same time.
It reminded me of the
just
movie,
like helping the Grenache be happier.
Yeah, like the movie Seabiscuit, where that Seabiscuit's like he's like an angry horse, and then they experiment with throwing like a dog in there, a sheep, and then finally they find like this little goat, and for some reason Seabiscuit's happy with this little goat.
So Grenache is the thoroughbred, and Claret Blanc
Is a little goat
the goat.
they throw in there.
I could see that.
This
I
is
like
my
it.
role at 16600.
You're the weird little goat.
Yeah, it makes everybody happy.
Wow.
Listen, I know my place.
And you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
All right, so do you get residuals from that movie Murdercycle or what?
That is so hilarious. I forgot that happened. It's a good, that was my introduction into the sound world at Sony Pictures, though. Eventually I made my way from like a PA into sound department and eventually got to the lot. But the real story is the home of the Toxic Avenger, Troma. That was the real
Oh, wow.
experience. I got to the Cannes Film Festival twice, which was my first real introduction to wines of the Southern Rhone, was because I went and promoted the Toxic Avenger Part 4, The Last Temptation of Toxie, out at the Cannes Film Festival. And that was a
blows
kick.
my mind that Troma goes to Cannes.
Well, that's an East Coast thing, so you should know all about those guys.
I know all about Troma. It just blows my mind that they go to Cannes Film Festival.
Forever. They're like the last true independent film studio.
Yeah, yeah.
Still, Lloyd Kaufman and Michael Hurst, they're still doing it.
Just picturing like Redneck Zombies does Cannes.
Yeah, that was it. They picked that movie up. They didn't produce it. Okay. They did like
fantastic movie, by the way.
Yeah, Romeo and Juliet and the Toxie series. But
so when you were, what year was that?
that would have been 98, 99, 2000. It was like a 3-year dive into.
So did you?
The
I mean, there's
$300 a week paycheck. I mean, you needed to get out fast.
Right. So there's, I mean, in Cannes, I mean, did you, were you just drinking the wines when you were there, or did you actually get in a car and drive north a little bit?
Really, very little education. My whole deep dive into the world of farming and winemaking is Justin Smith and Saxum, and it's the only education I really had.
It was past that, yeah.
Yeah, so it was
Saxum U.
Yeah,
right.
That is exactly it. So that was just a fleeting glimpse into the world of southern France and the wines. But I didn't really get into it until hospice, really. I
have a funny story about being in Cannes. We were on a trip. We started in Burgundy, and then a few of us broke off and went down to Southern Rhone.
This is the 20 hectares and no older brother trip?
Yeah.
Okay.
But walking along what I essentially called the promenade at nighttime from the clubs, and the way that the ladies of the night sit in their cars and display themselves to you, and then if you're so inclined, you get in the car and you drive away with them. And I was terrifying for this little boy from Petaluma who had never seen anything like that.
So did you get in a car?
I did not. I was probably a little too inebriated at the time. But yeah, that was my experience of being at Cannes. So
I missed that one. I did not have that experience.
Really?
And
they were
For
lined
the
up.
record, he did not have that experience.
And that's because my mom does listen.
Probably move those cars a little further away during the film festival. I'm gonna guess.
Probably so. Yes.
My goodness.
Yeah, I want to see the interior of these cars.
No, you don't.
Put a black light on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they move the cars and bring in the yachts for Cannes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Straight up. So are you an LA guy? Is that
no? I'm a Templeton guy. I mean, I'm born and raised in Paso. Yeah, I was born in San Luis Obispo, and my folks moved to the west side of Paso in the 70s.
Oh, wow.
And my sister was at a Y Indian Guides YMCA camp that was out near Toblis Creek, Camp Natoma. Okay. And they drove past, and there was a 40-acre piece of property that was extremely affordable at that time.
Right.
And so they went from their little house in San Luis Obispo to Paso, and they put in the power, and they put in the well, the same well that we have now.
And this is now the home of the estate vineyard. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. So they had the foresight, and it was pretty risky, I think. And and it wasn't wine country. There, Uber was there. The Pizzeni vineyard that Turley has was there, and then the Dante and Benito Ducci's vineyards were there. And then late 70s were Estrella River Winery.
Right.
But yeah, I got to see it explode for sure.
Yeah. But there was grapes on the property when they bought it?
No.
There was nothing.
There was nothing. No power, no water.
There was nothing.
Was the plan to put in vines?
No, my mom was a school teacher and my dad was a pharmacist.
Huh.
And I raised pigs. I was 4-H'er. And
you're homesteading.
Yeah. We used the land for rotating grain crops and that sort of thing, but it wasn't in the cards to be in the grape growing business. That had to be something like the Italian immigrants that came in and did it and had it already, innately cultural thing. So no, I came back in order to farm the ranch to make use of it in, the new.
And there's a lot of orchards out there.
Lots of walnuts, and there were. Yeah.
And you see the remnants of it now.
Yeah.
On your family's property?
No, really nothing. There was a 1,000-acre cattle ranch behind us that butts up to York Mountain.
Right.
But running cows, safflower, wheat, barley, that sort of thing. It was really cow town.
You had good dirt, though.
Yeah, well, so we're in sandy soil, sandy clay loam, sandstone, and then right at Vineyard Drive is where it shifts into the calcareous limestone soils.
Okay.
And the Denner Winery is between Ledge and James Berry Vineyard. So the ledge, so to speak, is right at the base of the San Lucia mountain range, and then it drops down to Vineyard Drive. So it sort of looks like a ledge, but yeah, we're the closest to the coast as you go toward York Mountains, AVA.
Okay.
Like Jack Creek Cellars is between us and York Mountain.
Okay, I know Denner well, so that makes sense.
Yep, we're right there.
And then the James Berry Vineyard.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. So
but the sandy stuff has allowed us to own root a great deal of it. We took cuttings from the Bone Rock terraces at JBV, and that was my first experience planting grapes. I asked permission from Justin and Terry and Pebble to take cuttings from the Bone Rock Estrella Clone Syrah, and collected about 5,000 cuttings and put them in the basement until a little earlier than this time of year, and had some buddies come and clip them down and stick them in the dirt. We didn't have irrigation set up or anything. We just had it surveyed. And
what year was that?
That was the 04-05 winter to spring.
And you got any gophers on your property?
They found out quickly.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. Well, now you do.
But if you set your perimeter, you work inside out, especially when you get the amount of rains that we have, you can police. We're 15 acres now, but in the beginning it was a couple of acres, and slowly work your way out. And
what do you do with gophers?
Do you trap them?
Trap them.
And trap them and trap them and trap them.
Until you drive them out.
Till the word spreads.
But and you also support your local raptor population, and
if they're still moving,
right?
That's the trick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yank them out of the ground while they're still moving, so they can be a supper for a raptor.
There used to be a guy. He retired. There was a gopher whisperer at Enterprise Vineyards.
For real?
Who would go and he just was deadly with the traps. He'd set them, and
What do they? What do you put in the traps? What do they like to eat?
I have no idea.
You just set the traps so that
they
move into them.
They just walk into them.
Huh.
One of the challenges is not losing your traps. So we have a system where there's a steel rope on a PVC, like a half-inch PVC with a sharpened stick. It's sharpened end, and you jam that thing in the ground, and there's 2 ways to go. So you put two traps in either direction, and one of them will usually set overnight. They're nocturnal. Well,
are we talking about Catch a Life traps?
They're outside.
No, this is the not PETA endorsed
That's
section of the podcast.
But it happens very quickly.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting though, because when you think about what does one do to be conscientious about your topos, you know, I mean, what do you do if you're organically farming lettuce or what have you? I mean, what would PETA recommend to the solution if you're an organic farmer?
Pamela Anderson will come out and ask him.
Vegan, whatever, what have you. What do you do about that situation? And honestly, I mean, I'd like to know. Send us your
Would they
emails.
rather have pesticides and poison or
Well,
traps?
we've gone beyond that,
Right.
So obviously, we're not talking about poisons as an option, but it would be an interesting discussion to have.
I mean, super not PETA approved. Have you tried the propane bombs?
I have not.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Satisfying.
Like fire in the hole.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So one of the concerns there is, as I understand it, we're really getting into the animal issue here. Is that it's been known to catch a squirrel tail on fire, and if they run outside of their hole, and there's a danger of. So there's only a certain time of year that you can engage in that sort of activity.
It's really interesting.
That's a really, at least, entertaining story for why you burned your town down. Like, well, there was this squirrel.
Yeah.
Fluffy.
Well, or there's the, take a road flare and throw it in the ground, throw it in a hole, cover the hole, and wait till the smoke comes
toxic.
up. No, I got it. But that was like an option at one point for, not using poison.
Yeah.
What was that? It's like, well, wait a minute. It is poison.
Phosphorus gases.
Yeah.
In the
You
soil.
gotta-
No.
Moonlander hole.
Can you imagine? Oh, yeah, it's coming out of the ground there. Let's go bury it. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, this wine, the Grenache, is delicious. I'm sorry. I'm trying to change the subject off.
Get us back on track.
Yeah.
Go for it.
These are conversations that you have, though. I mean, shoot.
Right. Oh, especially over estate Grenache blends.
Yeah. It is a constant challenge, as is any sort of farming situation like that.
Well, let's talk more about the transition from like working in LA.
Yeah. So it culminated in a job at Sony. I was working sound effects editing for the show Arrested Development.
Okay.
Which was a great time,
Yeah,
but it's
totally.
not exactly challenging from a sound effects situation. As you guys are dealing with sound, it's a very dry show.
Yeah.
So
A
I'm
lot of-
sitting there just watching.
a lot of,
and-
like, doors
and laughing,
slamming.
Like,
Yeah.
what is it? The Bluth family have the airport staircase on the truck, and that's not even my job. That's not sound effects, like somebody else does. No, I actually did do the car buys and whatnot, but anyway, it was fun, but it wasn't challenging to the degree that I could find myself working in a 10 by 10 studio. And I always wanted to have, if not the opportunity to come home and work in Paso Robles or Templeton, something very close to it. Like San Ynez was in the back of my mind, something that looked like the Central Coast that I could eventually live.
to farm and make one. That was,
Yeah, it was always in the back of my mind.
Right.
I wanted something like mom and dad had.
but not necessarily grapes.
No,
No.
just in the country. Small town, country, Central Coast was always in the back of my mind.
So what happened how did that transition happen to?
Well, my
did you go
brother and
work
sister were
for
already
Justin?
gainfully employed elsewhere, and so it was a situation more or less that if I didn't come home and farm something, there was a risk that the place wouldn't be there.
Right.
So I didn't hesitate. That was a no-brainer. I came straight home and I asked Justin's advice, and it was like, well, I can't pay you yet, but I'll teach you how to grow grapes and make wine if you can work for me. And, that was an easy decision.
The history of this Saxum was just sort of starting at this point. Also,
Just barely had started, and I had Wild Horse had made a James Berry Syrah that was sort of the first sort of segue into JBV and the Rhones, and then Lenny Coloto was a partnership between Matt Trevison and Justin Smith, and then Saxum just not long after. And so yeah, it was up at the house in the garage that was converted into a winery.
Right.
And I really jumped in with Eric Jensen. Justin was consulting for him and for Chris Cherry, Denner, and he was consulting back then.
Okay.
So I got an education under Saxum at the same time that Booker was starting and Via Creek and all that.
But again, it's amazing because all those wineries were very fresh at that point.
Yep.
I mean, you were all learning from each other. It wasn't like Justin was the end all be all. I mean, he was a little ahead of everybody else, right?
Yeah, he was ahead for sure. He was the most respected consultant in the game at that point.
It's not a diesel.
It's not a diesel anymore.
Yeah. Does it have a battery?
No. I mean, it's
yes. Shorter too, so it's easier to get in and out.
Fair, you can't park there.
Everybody look busy. Phil's here.
Quick. Act normal.
See, James, that's your place here at Enterprise Vineyards.
Harassing Phil?
No, just the response back that you just got.
Oh, yeah.
From harassing Phil.
Yeah.
What happened?
You need someone to flip
You
off.
can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
You're late, Phil.
He's on Phil time.
But we're happy you're here.
We got Bud Break? We have Bud Break. He's not on mic. So he's talking like he's on mic.
Special alert.
Special alert. Breaking
report.
news.
Changing out of his galoshes.
Yes.
Yes, it's obviously not dry though.
No, it is not dry out there. I mean, with that fog this morning, it's like holding in the moisture.
Yeah.
You want to come in here?
Can I see you?
Good to see you. Yeah. I can't fit in there.
Put him at the end.
I got to move your margarita.
My margarita
Well, that's James.
Thanks for dinner last night, Phil.
was fun. Hi, John. Oh, you're not John.
No, but sometimes you
Damn.
might be confused.
We're going to share.
I think John is in the air right now, ready to. I don't know where
Oh, that's right. He's like halfway to the Loire Valley or something.
Burgundy,
He's
Loire,
been halfway to
Champagne.
Loire Valley for the last 6 months.
Are you kidding? For the past 5 years.
Exactly.
Pour him the Ciera. 'Cause whatever. As you wish.
So there's Bud Break?
There's Bud Break and Grenache, Bud Break and Cap Franc, Chardonnay.
Where's
Chardonnay?
Moonrid? No, I mean Moon Hollow?
Oakville.
Oh, the Oakville Chardonnay.
The Oakville Chardonnay. And
Who gets that, by the way?
Oakville Ranch.
They're the only ones that get that Chardonnay.
oh, you want to buy it?
No, I'm scared to ask how much it is.
It's priceless.
Of course it is.
Good answer.
More interested than the table grapes.
In the table grapes. Most delicious table grapes I've ever had.
So where's this Syrah? If I could taste it, that'd be great.
And the Grenache at Oakville? Is that where?
Yeah, the Grenache at Oakville is 25% broken open.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Lassiter, Cayman's Cab Franc is out. It's happening. Yeah, well, today's the first full day of spring.
Right.
Yeah.
James took me up there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Slice of heaven up there.
Yeah, a lot of rocks.
Yeah.
But that's what gives it all the character.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you were able to see
Yeah, me too.
see the Moon Mountain District. So what do we have here? This is the Australia.
Yeah, Straight Clone Syrah. It's the Spanish Garnacha. And there's a little bit of the Alban clone in there. The Syrah is the own rooted stuff.
So you got to give us an overview of the Ledge Vineyard as it is now.
Yeah.
What
It's mostly Syrah and Grenache, about 50-50. There's a 2-acre block of Senso, a little bit of Counoise, and about an acre of Roussanne. And then a new planting, 5 rows roughly of each Claret Blanche and Grenache Blanc.
And this is the sort of 15 acres total is what you're saying?
15 total and about 30 plantable.
How did you like the Roussanne that you did in 22, you said?
I liked it. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
And I think that has to do more with maybe vine age and more than anything, the fact that I missed it more. I didn't include Roussanne in the Syrah of the year. I tried to do 100% Syrah, and it was a barrel. Mm-hmm. And I didn't love it enough to stop co-fermenting it with the Syrah.
Yeah.
Like, it was more important as a component of the red blend than it would be do. But I did plant more. I mean, eventually it would be nice to do a white blend that would be the Grenache Blanc, Claret Blanche, and Roussanne. But until that fruit's online, I'd rather co-ferment it.
And are you co-fermenting everything?
No.
On your property?
Like the Grenache and the Senso get picked at the same time. The Syrah and the Roussanne get picked at the same time. And the Counoise that's out there is sort of peppered in. I've got a meter by meter block that when I lost vines, I just threw in. I keep a nursery all the time. The own rooting thing is still very much alive in the nursery. And I'll replace missing plants with what is in the nursery. And I had a whole row of Counoise that I interplanted it. But Counoise for me is something that I'm moving away from. I'm going all in on Syrah and Grenache.
So the whole ranch is own rooted?
No, but about half of it is. Going forward, we started using certified rootstock, mostly 1103.
When you own rooted it, you rooted the plants in your nursery and then transplanted them out to
the original block was just straight in.
Straight
in. And get this, we didn't even have irrigation lined up. It was a block that my dad had an old 49 Ford tractor, and it would only go one direction.
Up or down.
It was round and round. And so we had it was a great rain year, that 04-05 year in Paso Robles. So we did about a 4-acre block.
In circles.
And then
did it turn left or did it turn right?
It went left.
Okay.
Good question.
At least it had
That's
right.
a good question. I mean, it's just like a regular racetrack, right? Don't they go left the whole time?
Yeah.
It's like running the bases.
16th of the speed.
Right.
And then
if you miss that turn, you're going to have to wait to get it the next time. Right.
Yeah, and then got permission to take the cuttings from the Bone Rock terraces, and we just stuck them straight in the ground. We had a long ass tape measure, and we did 8x3 spacing, and then we put in the end posts, and then we put in we did it all backwards. But fortunately, it worked out.
And how much of that is that still sort of like the?
I pulled out half of of that original block. I still have the other half there, but I sort of had to cut my losses with about half of it.
Yeah.
At that time, I was full time at Saxum. And we had just started, so I couldn't be in the vineyard all the time, which obviously you need to be in order for that to survive. Right. So I lost a decent amount to critters and weeds and water situations that I wasn't able to be present. But what really took. And it's like, 4 feet of sandy clay loam followed by a real sturdy clay, like modeling clay pan. So the water retention's great. The original well is going strong. The Grenache is dry farmed now. It was planted in 2010. The block, the Grenache, that's all head trained. It's super happy.
And the Grenache is on route. It's on 1103.
It's yeah. I did own root some of it. I pulled some Alban clone and transplanted or own rooted some of that here and there where we lost plants, but most of it's the 814 Spanish Garnacha.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But so you created a Massal selection. Whenever you get tired of one vine, you just stick another.
Well, it was just more like it really bothered me to see empty spots.
Yeah.
And so I have stopped doing that. I am.
Really, you getting more disciplined?
I am. It's more annoying to have the wrong vine in these blocks than it is to have it filled.
Yeah, but then that's the character that you're developing.
It is, but when it comes time to pick and they're jamming through, you can't just go, well, don't pick that one. We'll come back and get it.
Little red tags.
Never been on a Will Buckland pick.
Yeah, that's how
woefully inefficient.
Yeah, that's how we used to pick Old Hill when it was going to Ravenswood.
Because they only wanted the Zinfandel.
Stop.
Don't pick that vine.
Yeah.
It was really you had the tractor in one row, and we have Will in one row and Miguel in the other row,
telling you what to pick,
telling you what vines to pick and what vines to skip.
Yeah. Totally supervised pick.
It was. those were the most, slow.
That's problematic. Yeah,
And it's 110-year-old vines or whatever, and it's Will's ability to,
Remember?
identify them by sight.
Well,
right?
you can, for the most part, the guys identify them, especially with just picking Zid.
Right.
But there is one year, I think Diego Smart was working for us, and he could only tell by tasting them. And at the end of and I think he was being nervous, so he kept popping fruit in his mouth. The end of that
Must have
day,
been so sick.
he was so sick. So it's best to have all the same, But having the Masal selection, if you're co-fermenting, which now we harvest Old Hill as it's made in those
As it was intended.
a mixed black vineyard or Masal selected black vineyard. And then you have the white grapes in there. You pick everything at once because that's how they were made to be fermented.
All right. So what year? So you're working for Justin. What year do you start making your own wine and start actually deciding you're gonna?
2009 was our first official release. That was 100% Syrah. It was 100% whole cluster, own rooted, native fermented, neutral oak. Wow. And that program continued till about 2013. I didn't really do any new oak at all until 2015. 16.
Did you want to use new oak, but you didn't have?
There really wasn't. That wasn't in the cards at that point. But for a young vineyard in sandy soils, it was appropriate.
Yeah.
I got that sort of grip from whole cluster. It wasn't the sandy soils wasn't lending that tannic grip that you're going to get from the heavy limestone stuff. It was pretty fascinating. Elaine Chukon Brown did a side-by-side in 2011 of the Bone Rock Syrah, 100% Syrah, the Ledge, 100% Syrah. And I think it was Adelaida, all Estrella clone. And did the side-by-side tasting of all those wines, and sort of proves to the point that winemaking styles and terroir and sub-regions really do make a difference in the flavors of the wine. There was no difference in school of thought with how I was making it as opposed to how Saxum was making theirs. That's how I learned how to make wine, was there. So stylistically, the ABCs were the same, but we're in sand, and it makes the wine totally different. Yeah. It's the greatest. It's what makes it so much fun.
Right.
And so are you having to go out and sell the wine too, or because of...
I have the pleasure of doing that.
Right.
He is a professional, isn't he?
Yeah. But
I had a ball in Texas. I didn't know what to expect, and it's a pretty hip scene. We did Dallas, Houston, and Austin. It was amazing. I had a great time.
But you don't have like a big case production, right?
No, we're at 1,500 now. We'll probably max out at about 3,000.
Yeah.
We're enjoying having a loyal wine club and a pretty specific base through our small amount of distributors where we can be hands-on and I can meet people, and we don't have a tasting room. We'll do like visits to the ranch for wine club and friends and family, and we sit in the kitchen or walk around the property and spend 2 or 3 hours with our visitors, but it's not an appointment where you're in and out in an hour. We really enjoy the personal aspect of meeting those that purchase the wines.
They become part of the family.
Yeah.
Which is an important aspect.
Yeah.
So
I mean, my cell number's on the bottle. I enjoy getting
your cell. What cell?
My cell phone number.
My cell phone.
Not cell block.
I was asking.
I don't even know what that means. But no, I mean, we want to be accessible, and I want to answer the questions, and better than dispatching someone else to discuss the farming and the winemaking. It's easier to just nip it in the bud and give the direct answers to the consumer.
And do you have animals on the property? Like even like your own dogs?
I got 10 chickens.
10 chickens?
A couple cats.
Yeah.
Dogs. We just lost our Lulu.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who was?
Lucinda Williams was our dog. And Mom still has Hank Williams, her brother, so we're in there. He's still a good boy. And Lulu, love you.
Here's to Lulu.
Here's to Lulu.
Oh, to Lulu.
So where is the ledge?
So we're one hill toward the San Lucias from. So if you're at Saxum and you're looking at the mountain range, Denner's between Ledge and JBV.
Okay.
JBV, Denner, Ledge.
Okay.
And then York Mountain.
But is there an actual ledge that you could go off of?
Yeah, it looks like that. It isn't as dramatic as you wouldn't fall off of it, but it's pretty critical.
All depends on how much you've drunk.
Right. Yeah, you could tumble down it. It could be a good roll. Okay. Like when they roll the cheese down. What is that thing where they roll the cheese down and they chase after it? It would be similar to that.
Jack Kerouac, though, Dharma bums, you can't fall off a mountain. You just fall down a mountain.
You could fall down the mountain. Yeah, but that was Sugarloaf Mountain.
Was that Sugarloaf or was that Mount Whitney?
Oh, Mount Whitney.
Mount Whitney.
That's right.
Similar yet totally different.
Totally different. We kind of talk about the wild ride it must have been and still be from the last 20 years of being, part of the Saxum rise and sort of how it's kind of taken that whole region to some sort of stratospheric kind of places.
I feel like you guys can probably relate with your connection to the dead and to see something that is small and grassroots and grow into a phenomenon.
Yeah.
And not only just with, James Berry and the Saxum thing, but the whole region exploding before your eyes is it's exhilarating. It's great to be a part of, and we have a great community. We share techniques and invite discourse. It's competitive for the sake of we're all doing our best to do our best. And there's a lot of community.
Yeah.
And so it's nice that people will discover Paso and say things like, oh, it's so different here than Napa, and explain why. That it doesn't feel as untouchable. Like we're there to enjoy this with us, and there's plenty of room to grow still. There's
it's still very much family owned. Right, you haven't had the
three notable exceptions.
Yeah,
four notable exceptions.
No, I understand that, but that's been recent, right? Like, the majority of it is still people just trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. And lots of producers that may not have property, but have great little labels. For the sake of making quality wine, not to blow up or be the next big thing. And so obviously there, with discovery of the region, there's going to be the big dogs that come in and drink your milkshake sort of thing, but there are a growing number of small producers that are able to get it done in the right way. Yeah.
And that really adds a lot of excitement when you go down there and do the tastings. The amount of those small producers that are still there, and how that sense of community is really. Every time I've been down there, it's one of the things that stands out the most. The last trip when we ended up having a dinner at the end of the day, and going into the restaurant. Everybody in the restaurant knew each other.
Right. Yeah.
And it was a lot of sharing of ideas and passion, which is really important.
Can we talk about music?
Sure.
Yes.
How
we have to.
Does he have to ask permission for subject matter?
Well, if it's non-Grateful Dead related, yes.
It's in his contract.
Because you're in a band, right? Like that was something that's really important to you. I think I heard a story where, like, wasn't it the first time you played professionally was in the James Berry Vineyard or something?
It was
Brian and his background in.
I think it was a birthday party for Tobin James.
Okay.
And I
hired you?
it was at Terry and Pebbles, Justin's folks' house. And I had my first Guinness.
Wait, how old are you?
Well, that's off the record.
Yeah, okay.
No, it doesn't matter. I was like freshman or a sophomore in high school. And it wasn't that I hadn't had beer. I hadn't had a Guinness before. Right. And it was in a can, and it was dreadful. Or not a can, it was in a bottle. It was like those, when it was like warm. Yeah. But no, it was, there was a couple of other friends that we had a little band. It's not really that interesting to talk about.
Similarities between being a winemaker and being a musician. What is a homogeneous, harmonious lifestyle?
It is. It's a similar. You have a release that sums up your year, and it's expressed in the glass. It can be expressed in music or in lyrics or what have you, but it's an expression of the year. It's a release. It happens about once a year for musicians too that are making records, and that's an expression of the year. Right. And they're both absolutely creative. Music and wine go hand in hand, just like, conversation or in anything that stimulates you in a similar way. The creative aspect of sitting with a book and having a glass of wine or listening to music or having conversation, they really stimulate in similar ways, I think, similar ways. Mm-hmm. But it isn't, it's not a career path, and it hasn't been for 20 years for me, but it's a constant, an itch that needs to be scratched, and I enjoy creating music, and I've developed a quiver of really gifted musicians to back me up, which I need. I need good guys in the band to help me sound better. And they come from the jazz world, and I'm country, blues, rock, Americana sort of deal. So really fortunate to have the amount of winemakers in the area, because that also builds the music scene. The Vineyards Robles Amphitheater has, Alison Krauss, Willie Nelson,
great
Los Lobos, level bands and up.
Yeah. Neil Young played there this last week.
Yeah, he loves the Central Coast. Yeah, he's got a house there now, I think, and did his last release. Signed autographs for people in this little town of Atascadero, which is just south of Templeton. So there's a good and getting better music scene on the Central Coast.
I mean, the Mid-State Fair always has had.
Well, that was the only deal. Like my first concert was Kenny Loggins, the Danger Zone tour or whatever. And then it was like Alabama was the other band, and Juice Newton. I mean, these are my childhood memories when I had pigs at the fair, and it was like, well, Juice Newton's playing or Alabama's playing. It was always those Kenny Rogers. It was that sort of deal. And now, it's any number of great acts that are coming through of all genres.
It's all time. It's all year round now. It's not just.
It's all year round.
Just the fair time, right?
That's like the largest fair in California, right?
They call it the biggest little fair anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, as you said, it's not a career path, but what we do is a lifestyle.
Yeah,
is it a career or a lifestyle? What is it? What is it? And it's sort of what we have to always deal with.
Terrible career, great lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's another thing that music and winemaking have in common, is it's very difficult to sustain it as a lifestyle and a career. Yeah. You have to be dedicated completely to it. It's all in. Yeah. Music isn't necessarily that, but if you're going as a career to be a working musician, you got to be all in.
Right. You're dedicated to it.
Yeah.
And you let it take you for a ride. You let it teach you how, with the flavors or the chord that you're going to play.
Absolutely.
Feel inspired by the Bud Brick spitting poetry this morning.
Yes, spitting rhymes.
It's the best time of the year. As the vintage begins.
Yep.
It's a new start.
The energy changes,
and there's no problems yet until.
Yeah.
What are the problems?
March 20th.
We've only
over under on when the first tractor gets stuck in a vineyard.
I've been running one for the last 2 days. I put it on, made sure it was on rock.
Yeah, how's the SOG level out there? And I mean, obviously Moon Mountain's rock based, but I mean, are you dealing with? I mean, coming through I drove through from Marin, and it's pretty soggy down there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's going to be people stuck. On last Friday when I was driving down in Dry Creek, there was guys disking right alongside the creek, and I'm going, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
the mud bunch was up to over your ankles. So you know, the blood, the mud, and the spear. You know, whatever. You know, but it's what are you gonna do? You know, what are you gonna do? You have to get out there.
Yeah.
Or you think you have to get out there.
That's what the sheep are for, right? They can walk around in the mud.
And
eat some grass.
and I was just told this reason why some people prefer having cows out in the vineyard rather than sheep.
Oh, what's that?
Because they have a more complicated stomach, and so it's
the cows.
The cows, because they have two stomachs and they regurgitate, and so they have a better breakdown. There's more enzymatic activity going on in the stomach that is then shared to the soils, and you could put a cow out there and it will eat everything but the bell beans, you know, and so and I you know.
So we're gonna start running cows next year?
No, I'm not going to start running cows next year.
What about like soil compaction?
Well, that's always comes
with
up
with both the sheep and the cows, right?
but they say that a cow is calmer than a sheep. So the manure, the compost that is the offals that come out is calmer on the plants than the sheep, which tend to be a little bit flighty. So
I mean, you're watching a herd of the sheep get released into, you know, the next block of the vineyard. There's definitely there's definitely a panic.
Yeah,
but a sheep running into a vine's one thing.
A cow running
a 2,000-pound cow decides to take something out. It's not stopping.
Some old vines at the Rossi Ranch. It's basically just
No, it's
heaven forbid they have an itch.
You ever seen a cow lean up against something?
and like an end post. You know? So there's always a reason for doing something. And
always a reason not to do
the better the imagination, the more intricate the reason could be.
It's how stressed out the poop is.
I mean, there's some sort of direct correlation. Cow manure is way worse than sheep and sheep manure.
Yeah, in walking through there
to smell it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and as
it's not as enzymatically alive.
As a person who I was with, who is a consultant that I'll leave unnamed, he showed me a photo of some cow manure, a big blob of it right on the root zone of a plant. He goes, and now they're going to have the consultant come in a couple of months and explain why the plant is so vigorous. So you know, it's. I'd rather have sheep than cows.
Yeah.
I like the frantic anxiety that they bring.
Slightly less damage.
Yeah.
Landmines are smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
The Grenache is really nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Both wines are delicious, but the Grenache is that wild cherry, sour cherry thing's so good.
They sort of swap positions this young, which is showing truer. And
what year were these?
21s. This is the current release.
Nice job.
Thanks.
What was 21 like down in Paso?
It was a great year. Like it seems to go 23, 21, 19, 17. There's an interesting thing with the vintages when there's a year of rest in between.
Yeah.
We don't need to discuss 2020, but 22 was a hot year, and 23 was golden.
Yeah.
22.
I mean, it was all at once.
22 was a difficult 10 days that really set the atmosphere for that vintage. And
22.
22.
Yeah.
And 21 was just a great year.
Yeah.
Well, and people think of Paso as being like, at least my experience up here, they think of Paso as being really hot, but you guys actually get a fair amount of moisture, like mildew pressure, even at your spot.
Yeah, I think that subdividing the sub AVAs was a good call because there's a great deal of difference between the Willow Creek and Crosstown and El Pomar, even though they still share the Templeton Gap, the cooling, the diurnal shifts are still crazy everywhere. But we're in a little pocket just prior to York Mountain, and then you're at the coast, and you're the Slow Coast AVA just over the hill. But yeah, where we are experiences, and up in Tablas, we're all there. The two coastal breezes sort of come around and hug that region, and definitely get the influence of the coast. But there's a you can't just say Paso
Right.
anymore because there's such a great deal of difference and a lot of benefits to all the regions for certain varietals.
So there's a great bit of differences on how they farm too, because you get into East Paso, the other side of the highway, you're in the Central Valley, so to speak, right. And then the attention to detail the further west that you get, and it makes it really exciting.
Yeah, they're just larger farms, just vastly different size of
and way more of a
and,
monoculture, right?
Yeah.
As you drive into Paso, As you drive into Paso, the hour before you get to Paso with the vines on both sides, is that?
Are we coming from the north, or are we coming from the south?
the north?
Yeah.
So is that technically Central Valley? That area?
No,
because that's
Central Coast.
Because there's just vines forever.
That's that one.
You like
vineyard.
Greenfield and all of that.
Yeah, from King City on.
Monterey County.
Monterey County.
Yeah.
Okay.
You start. You have breakfast at the end of the road, and you get to the other end, you have lunch, and then you turn around, go back, and you go home. It's
charge the Tesla and head back.
No, the Monarch.
Charge the Monarch.
The Monarch.
I was speaking from my own experience as Phil's chauffeur.
Yeah, well, we weren't turning around in the middle of the vineyard. Great.
Silence as we all smell and drink wine.
Yeah,
Exactly. Looking for
silence and.
I listened to quite a few of your podcasts, and I enjoy the silence.
Ooh.
It's a nice little.
Our podcast is so much better when we don't.
It's a nice little lull.
Well,
you guys should work on your silence more.
Well, you're going to work on it yourself, because I have to get over to the office. It was I had to stop by.
Can you
Answer a question?
talk about something I just saw this morning? That there's going to be an outstanding in the field dinner going on later this year that is involving a winery down in Ojai.
That's about all I know too.
Okay.
Hey, who told you that you're supposed to be there yesterday? Somebody was talking.
Danny Fay.
Oh, that's right.
But it's in September, October.
It's October 19th. You'll be
October 19th, and as much as I love going down to Ojai, stopping in Paso on the way down, and experiencing all the different wine regions that I could get in one day driving down, there's no way on October 19th I'll be in Ojai outstanding in my field, because my field is going to be up here in the Moon Mountain.
Okay, so I can have your ticket.
You can have my ticket.
You heard it here.
And you can borrow my hat, so you can pretend you're
Right. Start working on your beard now, Brian.
Growing the beard out.
Actually, the beard you might be able to. It's the ponytail that's going to be.
It is going to be a marvelous event. The vineyard is incredible. It's at 2,100 feet on the top of Sulphur Springs. Look from the vineyard. You look right at the Channel Islands. So it's an amazing endeavor.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. A lot of Ciera, some Grenache. Actually, there's even a little Tempranillo. But the Ciera Ciera is so adaptive to places like that. So,
When the picture that they're using of the vineyard to promote that was an angle I hadn't seen of it before, and it really is just like hanging off the side of the mountain.
that's what it does.
Yeah.
In getting there, it's the white knuckles, and if you're on the ATV and it starts to slide because of the looseness.
There's nothing to stop you until
There's
you
nothing
hit
to stop you.
Ojai.
Just go down the canyons. Wow. And then you hit that canyon, then you go right out, and then you're in the ocean. And from there, you look down, you can see the Ventura Fairgrounds on one side, and then the Channel Islands on the other. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. It's Ojai Mountain Estates is what it's called, and I believe you guys might be talking with them up in Walla Walla.
Oh.
So all
right, there we go.
Then you'll get the rest of the story.
right.
Well, and sliding down the mountain to the beach, that sounds exactly like where they would host the dinner. They do those dinners where
like out on Stinson Beach where it's
they set up the tables so that they time it perfectly. So as you're like having dessert, the tide's coming in and the waves are starting to crash under your table. So that
it's got a way to clear some tables.
That
Tip
takes
your
a lot more
servers
planning than I want to
get
deal
the hell
with.
out.
That's what I mean. My thought is looking at these pictures is where there's going to be
A flat
someplace
spot.
flat, exactly flat enough to have a 200-person table.
I don't think that's a concern of theirs.
No, they don't worry about it.
Your
wine is like this in the glass.
Yeah, and you have one leg shorter than the other. You stand on facing one direction.
I got both legs shorter than the other, so
It was great seeing y'all.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See you,
Thanks
Phil.
for stepping
Thanks.
in.
Yeah.
see you, Pops.
Yep.
My boss.
There, you can have your microphone back. I'll see you in a while.
I'm Phil now.
Get in line. Apparently Brian's in front of that line too.
I'm getting those tickets.
We'll just cut one of my Willie braid wigs in half and staple it to the back of your head. You're fine.
I did notice that the the outstanding that showed up on our calendar this morning.
Oh, I put that on.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah. I've always wanted to go to one of
That's a
those
great
dinners, but they're expensive. It's like, I don't know how much it is, but it's like 300 plus or something.
$425 for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy does sand sculptures and all kinds. I mean,
They're really cool. I think they're from the East Coast because it's been going on in the Northeast for a long time.
Oh, it does say host vintners and
Had him
viticultures.
on the podcast.
Sandra Bernstein and I did a podcast, and he was on the podcast, and he pulled up in his old bus, in the old bus. Yeah, it was really cool.
The ones that I've been to a couple back east, and they're rad.
Yeah.
We should do one at Rossi Ranch. I'm just putting it out into the world.
From your lips to
theirs.
their ears.
To theirs. Yeah. Well, Mark, great wines.
Yeah.
What else is going on with you that you're excited about here going forward?
Excited about planting more Grenache. Having batted around the idea of doing Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, some of those varietals, and going
Graciano?
and no, but that's a good one. Great though. I mean that whole disaster didn't turn out to be such a disaster at all.
Fair enough.
But for me, I'm dedicated to more Syrah and more Grenache, and it was nice to come to that conclusion for our site and tasting a great many different varietals that are grown. Everybody's doing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And the wines are compelling from a great many producers. I've just sort of made the decision to continue to go forward with more Syrah and more Grenache. And so I'm excited about the growth of the vineyard, all kinds of different pruning systems. I've got meter, 10 by 10, 8 by 3, 8 by 6. And so trying to figure out what the sweet spot is according to what the soil type is. Because while it's a sandstone spot, there is like silty sand in one area, dense clay in another, rocky, gravelly stuff on another part of the property. So it's fun to sort of take the pulse of the property and figure out exactly what's going to do well where. That's what I'm super excited about.
I say it feels like you identify more as a farmer than anything else.
Wine farmer.
Yeah.
Wine grower. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, you love the farming
That's
part
the
of
heart of the beast.
Yeah.
It's why I came back, is because my center of gravity is on that property.
Yeah. It's awesome.
And had it been another crop, my passion would be the same.
Do your siblings at this point look at you and go, what's he doing? Or, God, I
Damn
wish
this
we were
desk
doing
job.
what he's doing?
No, they're happy in their own paths, and are my brother lives 3 miles away from the ranch, and it's mom's got her granny cottage, and I'm in the old house with my family, and so it is fortunately a very unified family trust. It's in a really good place right now, and the future is bright.
It's awesome.
Got to wear shades.
Right.
Can't believe I just said
Are those lyrics from one of your songs?
Yeah, well, weren't you up? You were up here recording an album, right? Or working in
Yeah,
the
I'm working
studio?
on a record in Fairfax. Tim Bloom's the producer, and I just come up and can bang out, a couple tracks at a time.
Will you sing one for us right now?
We finished 3. So that's a fun thing. We're playing in Santa Cruz at the Moe's Alley place. April 15th.
What's the band's name?
It's Mark Adams Band.
Mark Adams
for
Band.
lack of any other.
Right. Hey,
name.
you took your good name and you gave it to the winery.
That's right.
Road trip on
That's
April,
all I'm spent
April 15th.
now. My creativity's gone. I've just had so many different bands over the years that it's simpler now.
Moe's Alley is a great little venue too.
Love it.
I heard a rumor you might be able to catch him at the 16600 tasting room one of these days too.
Would love it.
All right. Ooh. Or maybe a vinyl Sunday out at the barn.
Anything's possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you doing June 23rd?
I mean, that's the question of the day.
Where can people hear you? Is it on Spotify and
Mark Adams Band.
Okay.
On the gram at Mark Adams Band.
General Google-fi. Where's that one?
It's on Bart's phone.
Oh, is that a Spotify one?
So that means it's compressed and he's not getting paid as much for this.
I was gonna say you're actually getting negative 3 cents right now.
That's right.
You gotta use Apple Music. Yeah.
But I like the harp.
The paper is worth more than the residuals.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a timely reminder to everyone out there that if you love a band, buy merch, buy records.
Right.
Don't stream them on Spotify.
It's not
go to shows.
Yeah, it's definitely more about having a good time with the guys and picking than it is about that. It's,
no, sorry, I just realized that
it's a
Phil
good hobby.
wasn't
It's a good time.
at that microphone anymore. You were, and so I had it turned way
James
up.
a little hotter than Phil on the
People
mic.
expect
like,
you to be
whoa,
peaking
red
at all
light.
times.
Yeah.
So.
All right, and people want to buy some of your wine.
People want to buy the wine, they go to ledgevineyards.com, and after we release Wine Club, then we'll open the shop, and we were in wine shops. Kimberly Jones Selections is our California rep, and pretty easy to get a hold of us, and we're in the business of selling wine. We're easy to get a hold of and sell it to you.
My totally unbiased opinion is that it's delicious and you should buy all of it.
I like that opinion. Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
it's a nice
That was
one
fortuitous.
together, yeah.
Fortuitous. They ran into James in Texas, and somehow that made it so we could do a podcast here in Sonoma.
That's how this works.
The James Joyner
Welcome to the
whirlwind.
tangled web of my life.
We've been joined.
We did pitch this to Bravo, but they hung up on
What
it.
did you guys like? What was your favorite part about Luck?
I mean, if I don't say Kermit the Frog singing with Willie, I'm a jerk, right?
No way.
You didn't see that on the
But,
gram?
I'm not saying Rainbow
was a
Connection. That was
goosebump moment.
that was a brain melter. I had a little bit of forewarning that it was going to happen, and it still didn't seem real. But I actually think...
you think Kermit was actually singing, or do you think it was dubbed?
Muppeteers, the whole deal, dude. It was insane.
Yeah.
I do think the only way they could have won up that is if Mick Piggy came running out of the audience and punched him in the face.
Started humping him.
Yeah, or just like clubbed him. But we actually did we have a long conversation last night about what their kids would look like? Was that
No.
that happen?
That was
entirely in your own brain.
That was a brain
Sure.
dream.
It was a very late night at the Joyner backyard. But anyway, favorite part. I think my favorite part of Luck is just being at Luck. Like it's just, for anyone who's gotten to go, the second that you walk in, it's magic. Like it really is. There's something magic that happens there every year. It's not a music festival. It's not part of South by Southwest. It's just pure magic.
Something about standing in the chapel listening to someone play music.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, I recently had to reminisce on like my favorite. So I've been to every one of them except for one, and from back when it was the Heartbreakers banquet. I think my favorite moments. There's things that stand out, like Bill Murray pulling children in through the chapel window because it was raining out, but it was also over capacity. And you could see like the fire marshal cop guy looking, being like, "Am I the guy who busts Bill Murray for pulling kids into church?" But the whole every minute there is just pretty incredible. They just curate a perfect event. And it's funny, like booze is free, nobody's wasted, like the vibe is chill. You think Texas, you think it's gonna be a bunch of crazy rednecks. It's not. Like it's really
booze is free.
Yeah. Once you're in, you can buy food, but all the drinks are free.
Yeah, like Tito's has a booth. There's
And actually, I didn't realize that until this year because I'm an entitled jerk, and I've always been in the VIP section or backstage. But yeah,
a marketing opportunity, and it's not so many people that they're going to get overwhelmed with.
Yeah, they keep it tight, and they release a certain amount of tickets, and it really comes down to like you got to know somebody to go situation. And I was super stoked Mark could make it this year. That was amazingly fortuitous.
Yeah, I was.
And then our friend Allison, friend of the pod, came. And it's just incredible. I don't even know words. It's amazing. Mark, what was your favorite part?
Well, I had only heard Tyler Childress in a very 3-4 piece small situation, and he had a really band of my dreams, 7-person band. Oh. The tele player also played fiddle and banjo. The guy who's playing strat also played pedal steel. So and then Tyler played acoustic guitar and fiddle. So there was twin fiddles at times, and there's banjo and pedal steel, and then just full rock and roll to, a super soulful country music and everything in between.
He's definitely on my bucket list.
The band was firing, and I didn't expect that because what I had heard was a little bit more backwoodsy, he's got that super high lonesome voice, unique high pitched whine sort of thing, and that's all I knew. But this was a rock show, and so that was super impressive. And I'm a big fan of the band Folk Uke, which is Kathy Guthrie and Amy Nelson. Kathy's Woody's granddaughter and Arlo's daughter, and Amy's Willie's daughter, and they have hilarious songs called Shit Makes the Flowers Grow, and really funny, witty, a highly recommended, entertaining group with a lot of talent and a very lighthearted approach to songs that are hilarious and musically great too. So those were the highlights for me. Willie was of course great. Micah Nelson's hilarious and wonderful, and so yeah, all around great time. I was very lucky, and my aunt lives not far from.
That was crazy.
Luck
by not far, he means a quarter mile.
I took a $17 cab ride to Luck from my aunt's house, and so I got to.
She's hosting all of us next year, right?
For 2 nights. Yeah, she would. Right. She would be very welcoming. So that was great. After a pretty grueling marketing visit through Dallas and Houston to have a couple of nice showers and a family place to stay was beautiful. And I didn't expect to be that close to Luck, but it was really just right up the hill.
Best spot in the house. I will say I left something out. I was standing with Coates or Allison.
A-Jackets.
For
those of you on
the gram.
A-Jackets.
We were watching, and it happened a few times throughout the day. That guy looks really familiar. Couldn't place it. And finally, we're sitting next to him, and it was Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who's known for playing McLovin in Superbad.
Oh.
And still looks exactly like McLovin. And I've met a lot of famous people. I know a lot of famous people. I've never fanned out, but I was, I did want to ask if he carried that card in his wallet. Because it was pretty rad.
But you didn't get the opportunity to ask him.
No, because he was there with Matthew McConaughey or something, and I was kind of
Hawaii fake ID.
Now I'm just that guy. He pulled up in a Buick and started a goat, and I just don't want any part of it. It's fine. But no, it was wild. That was that and John Doe were the two.
Yeah, John Doe was
just chilling,
mulling about. Steve Earle made an appearance and sang a couple songs.
That's right.
What other guests were there?
The high five from John Oates.
John Oates,
old friend of mine. Not really, but
of Hall.
Half of R.I.P. Hall and Oates.
Are they doing okay?
I don't know. I will say though that
what's the guy?
I've gotten the opportunity to go to a couple of Christmas parties in New York with John Oates, and that guy is amazing.
Cool.
Speaking of half of Halls, do you see Patson Hall?
Yes.
Abrupt Winemakers podcast transition.
No,
purchasing back their
sold their winery to
Barstool Sports. Am I right?
Not even that long ago.
Nope.
James Hall of Patson Hall, Donald Patz, sold to Chateau Saint Michel within the decade.
I love that.
And then
seeing Tristan driving the van.
Just bought the brand back from Chateau,
for a fraction of what he got paid for the brand.
I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure.
The American dream, baby.
I mean, it's happened, a few
we had that
now.
guy on the show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Brago.
Doug Stewart.
Yeah.
You know, and then if you even look back, I mean, remember Peter Haywood bought back his brand and he ran it for a few years from, large corporation. I mean,
if anybody wants to
so
buy
goes the
James Joyner and then sell him back to him for less than you paid for it, I am all in, brother.
It just speaks to consolidations and what is a brand value.
Yeah.
Or what is the value of a brand, right?
Well, and also just sort of the turmoil of Chateau Saint Michel and the Washington,
R.I.P.
The Washington, basically, right? We're one of the juggernauts is sort of fading away.
Did you also see the article today in shout out to Wine Business Monthly today about
this is how we make sure that Cyril keeps us in the email, right? Okay.
Was that all of the gallons of the millions of gallons of international wine that was imported into the United States and then put into these. It's not California appellation, it's American appellation.
Right.
So there's some amount of wine that doesn't have to be from America. And then they did the math kind of going and how many acres are supposed to be being pulled out. And then one. Right. And then you look and see all the wineries that are the importers, and it all makes sense.
But there's also a ton of these weird like urban wineries in Tennessee and in Denver, like where they're like, they bring in bladders of juice. And like, there was this guy in Tennessee that I ran into, and he's like, I'm a winemaker. And I'm like, he's like, I make Italian wines in Nashville. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I just get the juice. He's like, I just shovel in some sugar, shovel in some of this stuff. I got this powder that goes in over here. It tastes good. I'm like, it's a wine. I put it in a can. I sell it. And I'm like, that's fucking crazy, bro. All right, cool.
Where's
But there's a lot of those out there. I mean, there's definitely one in Denver. There's one in Austin.
Yeah.
We have a bottle of Idaho wine right now sitting at my desk where the fruit is from Walla Walla, and then it gets shipped out. I guess that's not that far.
That's not even a stretch.
That's not even that far.
Let's break down this thing. Look at these numbers real quick.
Yeah.
In 2022, the wine group imported.
Boo.
There goes our sponsor.
Basically, the equivalent.
That's what you're shooting for, dude.
Of 132,000 tons. Is that 22 million?
22,472,300 gallons.
Which is
9 billion?
From where?
9,451,952.24.
But where's it coming from? Is it
coming
France,
from
Spain,
just foreign
Australia?
bulk imports?
I mean, it could be Chile, it could be
Thailand.
Argentina, it could be
I'm just saying.
All told, it's
right. It doesn't matter.
You have Bronco, which is
Fred
Franzia, Constellation, Delicato, Gallo, Fetzer, Corbel, Treasury, Trincaro.
And remember, so
wine group.
Wait,
you're talking Trincaro, not a huge number on this list, but still on this list.
Menage a trois and a trois.
You're talking 400,000 tons of grapes, which. They want us to pull, we're supposed to pull out in California 40,000 acres or something like that. That's right there.
What's crazy is how many of those probably
we got
get
12
somehow branded as a $12 Napa Cabernet for Costco. like through some weird chemistry of or alchemy of shade and fruit. How much of that do you think winds up? Sure, it's American, whatever, but how much of that do you think is Napa Cab for $12?
Well, these are these wines, again, back to having Cyril on last week, the part of the market that is shrinking and, this huge piece of wine had negative sales growth. I love that negative growth. It's what the fuck? Negative. And then they're doing this, and then they're wondering why there's this glut in the market and there's these problems. And they go, well,
margins are thin, brah.
Right.
We got to bring in this cheap juice.
Look in the mirror. I don't know. Anyway,
where's the soul in that? That's just pure capitalism.
It's just
the soul is called Mega Purple
alcohol production license to make money, right? As opposed to actually
and the whole thought process of turning a showing growth every quarter for a company. It's
Well,
just
for the
insanity.
Like
corporations.
making widgets.
Well, yeah, this is the equivalent of like the AI songwriter that was. You saw that thing the other day where now there's an AI you can go to and be like, write me a song that sounds. Yeah, I'm a fidgeter. What do you want from me? They're taking pictures of me picking corks apart. Now we have to drink the bottle. Exactly. Mission accomplished. You can thank me later.
Crazy like a fox.
That's what I do. Anyway, I forget the name of it, but there was an AI thing that made the Rolling Stones newsfeed the other day. So it's you go to it and you like type in, be like, make me a song that sounds like Modest Mouse, and it will just replicate that and pull from the ether, and it will create a new song for you that sounds like that band.
Yeah.
And this is the wine version of that in a lot of ways.
Totally.
Well, dark.
It is dark.
It is dark. Yeah, just go.
Well, the stuff from the American wines aren't that dark, but are dark.
They are when you put a lot of mega purple.
Yeah, exactly.
Ah, yes.
And there's some additives there for sure.
All right, what are we doing? Anything we want to tell people to lift them back up, lift their spirits?
If you're in Hawaii, look for Sam.
Yeah, hospice.
Be on
hospice.
Be on the Kona shore in 24 hours.
Yep.
If you're
Bonus points if you take him golfing.
Definitely. Bonus points if you take me golfing and somehow make it so my wife's not mad about me.
Have you ever?
Now, you're on your own on
Listen,
that
man.
part.
Listen, we can only give you things that are possible.
Sam, have you seen the Hualalai course on the Kona coast?
No.
It's-
I've just been spending like the last 2 weeks in my office looking at the map, looking at Google Maps, going,
No,
there's a golf course.
Sam, we all know you're working when you're in there.
Yes, totally.
That's the Cola website,
Fine.
not
It's
Google
been-
Maps.
Okay, for the last 3 months in my office. scrolling.
I got to thank my wife because I've been running feral since Dallas.
Right.
You
You
haven't
know.
made it home yet.
Yeah.
Like 4 hours last night.
Well, I know, but
She's
that's not
amazing.
face to face. Yeah, she's wonderful. Hi, Ciera. I love you.
Shout out Ciera, my new homie.
Yeah.
Longest FaceTime I think I've ever done.
Weird. Okay.
She was upset with me because I hadn't
there.
answered the phone and I was in the web. I was in the joiner web. And I hadn't been responding to her text. And so she just was like, she did find my.
She
my
thought I was
phone
a
started
60-year-old
beeping,
man,
and then
to be clear, which
then
is a
we
little
did
weird,
The FaceTime.
Why did she think I was a 60-year-old man?
I don't know, because you're intelligent.
I'll take that. Thank you very much.
That's the only thing I can think of. I
Let's
don't know
just
that there was
end it
anything
here.
else.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All right, we got nothing going on in the next few weeks. I mean, we're heading up to Walla Walla.
Walla Walla.
And
If you're not going to Walla Walla, come see me at the tank.
Go get tanked with Bart.
right.
It's on the
Thanks.
website now.
That one's
Reservations
free, Bart.
on the
Go-
website.
I got tanked at
you-
Bart.
Do you have what's your sign? You got
Sign situation?
You got Bob Sanders on the sign.
He told me the same thing it's always been.
Shout out Bob Sanders,
Couple
the
weeks.
on-time leader.
Next week.
Yeah, next week.
We'll get it in the end of next week. So, I guess
That's when my diet starts.
I guess when, they ask you what's the budget and you say, it's pretty tight.
Right.
You don't do that. You just go,
Whatever you need.
budget, just get it done. So,
Yeah.
that's all right.
And we're pouring at High Museum tonight.
My museum's happening as we speak.
Yeah.
Big Atlanta museum fundraiser. Paul's
Yeah,
down
Paul.
there. He's about to go. He just texted me. He's going to the welcome party at some castle. Dinner party at Steve's Castle. Steve Reese of McKinsey and Company.
All right.
It's just like,
It's Atlanta. Everybody's got a castle.
you could have that house in Atlanta, or you can have a 1-bedroom half bath in Sonoma.
I was going to say, it's that or you could live under the bridge on the Sonoma River.
And then James, you and I and Phil this weekend will be
Right. Friday.
Jimmy V.
Jimmy V Foundation.
Going to
in
raise some
Healdsburg.
money for cancer.
Sonoma
Cancer
Epicurean.
research. Yeah.
And then, the future is bright. We got the June 1st Moon Mountain District event, grand tasting and
Official
masterclass
after party at the Fairmont.
with our official after party at the Fairmont with Tony Saunders playing. And then the next day, we're just rolling right through our first Vinyl Sunday of the year.
With
Yeah.
Andy Kabik of Vetiver. Very excited.
We didn't learn our lesson last year.
Yeah. We're not playing around this year.
That's cool.
We don't learn lessons around here. We just go back for the same pain and misery year
go.
after year.
What are we talking about? Hanging out with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here you are.
Mark, what is going on at Ledge? Any events coming up or anything you want to?
Ledge Fest. Sorry.
That's quite all right. It's still possible that we'll do a Ledge Fest in the middle of the summer, which is essentially a wine club party that's extended to friends and family.
You said I could do a soft 10.
Have last time we did it was just before, like it was 2019. We had 5 bands and had a bunch of food and encouraged people to come out and stay for a while. But I mean, Wine Club's live. If you're interested in acquiring the wines, then please check out ledgevineyards.com.
It's like you would expect it to be spelled Ledge.
Yep.
Ledge.
And yeah.
Well, I went to go grab this cork, but you couldn't tell on this one anymore.
What other kind of ledge is there?
I don't know. She spelled weird in the wine business. You had to come up with a new name.
It's not a clothing company from the 90s. It's like LDGPH.
Right.
All right, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a shout out.
Oh, Jasmine's
wait a minute.
Jasmine, give a shout out.
Double mic, go.
This is for all the wine club members. Please be looking on the lookout for your emails and all the customs. For your locals, please make appointments to come pick up your wine, and we can celebrate you and pour some fun stuff that doesn't get released to everybody. So,
Jasmine doing business.
Nice.
If you sleep on this, Jasmine's coming to your house, and you don't want that.
Exactly.
She's going to be mad.
Let's look at the real
business
reason
time.
about this.
Here we go. All right. Answer your email for Jasmine, or all of the rest of us will suffer.
Or she is going to call you out on the podcast.
She has a list. She's taking notes. Fear the wrath.
Happy birthday, Brett George.
Happy birthday, Keanu Reeves.
I think.
I have no idea
It
when
was
his
just
birthday
Brett George's
is.
birthday.
No idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just Brett's birthday. Shout out to the George family.
Yep.
Hope the healing is happening. Yeah.
All right, Sam. Aloha. Happy birthday, Roger Randall. And
Subscribe, review, tell your
Namaste.
friends.
And drink more Paso wines.
do all those.
Yeah.
Drink more Paso, Grenache, Syrah.
Should we close out with an acapella Highway to the Danger Zone?
Definitely not.
I was hoping for that song from Caddyshack. I'm all right. Don't nobody worry about. I just watched that movie the other night.
We did too.
It
It
still
was so
fucking holds
good.
up. That movie
If you're
still
still
holds up.
listening, remember you get 1% off of any purchase at Ledge Winery.
And if you're still listening, you should probably find something
At
to do.
DaneSellers.com.
Your boss is watching.
Someone should probably
That's
hit
a long
stop.
poop.
All right, we're out of here.